All right, I want to welcome you to this training. We're going to be talking about Home Run Copywriter's course, Write Sales Copy that turns suspicious readers into trusting, eager to buy customers at the blink of an eye. Avoiding a strikeout is what we're going to be talking in this training. We're going to be talking about the AIDA, marketing's oldest formula and the fundamentals every copywriter should know. Double or triple conversions with your existing sales letter, or write a brand new killer one that takes your visitor from suspicious reader and turns them into a trusting, eager to buy customer at the blink of an eye. A lot of people got some really bad looking sales copy out there. They're like, I'm getting traffic, but I'm just not sure why nobody's buying. And when you go to look at their sales copy that they're using, you understand right away why that's happening. Using this kind of a formula and what we're going to be talking about in this training, the tips that we're going to be talking about is going to help you take that basically dead sales copy and turn it into something that's going to get somebody to actually take action, whether it's signing up to as a subscriber on your list, if it's taking, getting something for free, or if it's actually clicking on a buy now button, whatever it is that you're looking for them to take action and do, that's what you should be able to do after this course. The AIDA Home Run Copywriters model, and here's basically the model. Starting at first base with our A, we have attention, and we're going to cover each one of these here in just a little bit. Second base, we've got interest. D for the third base is desire, and our home run plate is when we get them to take action, that required action that we're asking somebody to take, which is usually down at the end of the sales copy. But you've got to get them there first. And that starts with grabbing their attention, getting them to be interested, getting them to have the desire, and that desire is to take action at the very end. All right, the first one is attention. Get your readers' attention. If you want your sales letter to have an impact on your readers, it must first get their attention and cause them to want to read further. And of course, we understand that this is going to be your headline. When somebody shows up to your page, or if it's like an email that you're sending out, it's going to be your subject line, or if it's an article or a blog post, it's going to be the title. You need to get their attention first and encourage them to read further. Your reader will be interested only in knowing what's in it for me. Why should I invest my time in reading on? So basically, when they show up to your sales page, the very first thing that they need to notice is that this is something that's relevant to me. If they do not notice that, they're going to end up taking off right away, and you've wasted your time in the investment in getting that traffic to your sales page or to your squeeze page or to open up your email or whatever it is that you've written this copy for. If you do not make it so that it's relevant to them, they're going to move on. And the way to get to basically make sure that it's relevant is understanding how to research it properly and knowing that what you are writing is going to be something that your target audience is interested in. This all is going to start with the headline, like I just mentioned. Your headline must capture their attention. It must say what you're about to read is relevant to you. It must give them benefits of what they're going to receive and get them to read further. And that's what the purpose of that headline is for, is to grab attention and encourage them to keep on reading. Here's kind of a little bit of what we're talking about. Here's kind of a headline. When you show up to that page, right away, you need to be able to capture their attention. We got tired of losing money on advertising because your sales letter won't convert the visitor to your website into paying customers. Well, a lot of people are running into that problem. You're identifying the problem already, so they're like, yes, that's me. Discover how to hit your sales out of the park by following the simple and proven step-by-step home run hitting methods to creating hypnotic sales copy that turns visitors into eager to buy paying customers. We'll be talking here in a little bit about the sales or the headline and stuff and what it needs to include, but basically that headline has got to say, yes, it's relevant. And yes, it wants me to move forward down the page, and that's exactly what it's supposed to do. Nothing else. It's not to really sell them on anything yet. It's just to get their attention and keep them where they're at right now and get them to start moving down the page. The rest of the sales page or your message is going to be crafted to continue to keep them reading all the way down to your call to action. Second one is interest. You need to gain your reader's interest. You must clasp the reader's interest by showing him why he needs your product or service. You have to create a want for your product or service. You need to let your reader know how his or her life will become easier with your product. Show the reader what is missing by not even trying the product. So basically, you've got to show them right away, you've got to grab their attention and then get them interested. You've got to be able to start showing them why they're going to need this product. You've got to create a want for your product or service. You've got a lot of people that are coming, like we said a little earlier, from some bad experiences. And they're going to be very skeptical. And it's your job, it's not their job to make a decision on it right at that time. It's your job to make them decide that this is something that is going to be needed by them and to take the action that you're looking for them to take. You're going to be writing your sales letter, letting them showing them, here's your problem. This is the problem. I've identified your problem and I've got the solution. And let me show you how much easier your life is going to be if you'll just keep going down this sales page and take action today. I want to show you how much easier your life can be. You've got to show them that they're going to be missing out. If they don't take action today, that they're going to be missing out on what you have to offer. You need to gain your reader's interest by connecting, and that is going to be your story. So many people go, I don't really know what makes me different about anybody else. One of the biggest things that's going to differentiate you from anybody else that is out there is going to be your story. Your story is very important. You need to, everybody's got a story to tell, and one of the things you need to do right now is craft that story that you have. Write it out so that you know your story. It's that you've got it written out so that you're ready to use it. You're ready to tell it whenever you have to tell that story. People will relate to your story. There's been times where I've written sales copy that people have come back to me and said, the only reason I bought this was because I related to your story. That helped me to trust in the person that you are. I seen that was something that I was able to identify with. And your story is unique, and other people are going to identify with you through that. You're going to be able to have a connection with them, and that getting that interest in their first part of your sales copy is very important, that you start connecting with that reader right then and there. You need to basically empathize with them, with the problems that they're having, letting them showing them that you understand exactly what they're going through. But don't worry, just hang on for a little bit because help has arrived, and I'm going to show you how. Third is the desire to create desire. Tell the reader how exactly he or she will benefit from your product. Paint a picture in the reader's mind. Get them to realize how your product can benefit them, how convenient it is for them to get it, and how comfortable life will be for them afterwards. Generalities are less convincing. Specific details are far more believable. Here's an example. Within 3 weeks, you will have lost 15 pounds. Imagine the compliments pouring in from your spouse. Think how gorgeous you'll look in the new swimsuit. Now, when we talk about that little example right there, it starts painting a picture, but I want you to notice something about this. This is very targeted to a very specific audience. This probably is not going to be targeted to most men. It's probably not going to be targeted to a lot of people that maybe are really overweight, that 15 pounds isn't going to really make a difference. It's, if I was to come across something, I could lose, 40 pounds right now and no problem whatsoever. So I'm looking at 15 pounds like, that's no big deal. What about more than that? So example right there is going to be very targeted. Most guys, you're not going to use the word gorgeous, because you're going to use different wording for them. So you're probably targeting somebody that just, is already looking, pretty good. They're just, they just held that swimsuit up, or they got into it, the next year, and it just doesn't fit right. And they need to lose a little bit of weight, and it's probably a female. Of that, because you're using words like gorgeous. So you've really, who your audience is, and you're very targeted with the words that you're using. And that's what you need to do with your sales copy. You need to paint a picture. And with that, you want to get this person basically going in, looking in that mirror, holding that swimsuit up, going, yes, I can see myself in this swimsuit walking down the beach with all the guys kind of looking at me, and their wives slapping them or something for looking at me. You need to start painting a picture in their mind of what that is going to, how they're going to feel, how it's going to look like in their mind when this actually occurs, when they get the result that you're telling them that they're going to be able to get. It's very important that you use words that describes a picture and starts beginning to create pictures in their mind. And you're going to be able to start doing that by using the benefits. Never sit there and never worry about features. You need to have the benefits of those features. And we can talk about those a little bit later, but really, to create desire, you've got to start getting that person allowing themselves to create a picture of what you're talking about and the results that you're telling them they can get. Action. You need to solicit action. What do you want the reader to do next? Once you get them completely down the sales page, you've got to get them to take action. If you do not, all is lost. It was in vain that you even got them there in the first place and made them read all down your sales page if you're not going to ask them to take some kind of action. You've worked hard so far. You've gotten their attention. You've hooked their interest. You've created desire. Doesn't it just make sense? Isn't it appropriate to ask for action at this point? A lot of people just assume that they're going to read your whole page and just assume that they're supposed to take action. Well, in their mind, they're realizing that they need to take action, but if you don't clearly display it for them, they're not going to understand exactly what you want them to do. Don't presume that your reader knows what to do next. The PS is one component of a letter that almost always gets read. Use your PS, which is at the end of your sales copy or your end of your emails. A lot of times you'll see emails or sales copy. They all usually have a PS at them. A lot of people will read that. One of the reasons that is because usually you can find out everything that you need to know if you haven't figured it out in the headline already in the PS of that, because you'll find out a lot of times your guarantees, you'll find out the most compelling benefits that are there, you'll hear the call to action usually, so you basically can get almost everything if somebody's really on top of the PS at the end of their sales copy. Use your PS to emphasize your most compelling benefit or state your guarantee again, and don't forget the call to action once again. Just because you've given it once or twice already, do not forget to use it in the PS. Here's a call to action example. Let's say we got down to the sales and toward the end of the sales page, and you're getting ready to get them to take action. Basically, you can say, now you have to ask yourself, how badly do you really want or need your sales copy to convert? Well, in their mind, they start coming up with the answer to that. Tell them the add to cart button is directly below. You're telling them where to look at this point. You're not, making them go search for it. You're telling them it's right directly below where you're at right now. Now you're going to tell them what action to take. Click it right now before someone else takes your spot and this amazing offer shuts down for good. Now you're also putting a little bit of fear into them at this point that they could possibly lose out if they do not take action at this point. We're going to be talking about that when we talk about persuasion, but you start getting them a little bit of fear that if I don't take action right now, this sounds good, but if I don't, somebody else is going to take my spot. I don't think so. People do not like to lose out on things. And then you're going to basically tell them what to expect once they do take the call to action. You need to make everything very specific. It says, thank you for your time. We'll see you on the inside with instant access to the Home Run Copywriters course. You're telling them they're going to get instant access to the course as soon as they click on that. One of the things that I want you to uh, really pay attention to is some of the wording that you use in this time. One really important word in that little sentence right there is inside, where I'll see you on the inside. People do not like to be left out. They like to feel that they have the inside information, that they feel, that they're getting over on somebody else that might be missing out. They basically just beat somebody else that you were talking about before. It's they're going to be an insider now instead of being left on the outside. So just little bitty words are like hot buttons for people, and sometimes it's just changing the wording of your paragraph or your sentence that is really going to make a big difference when it comes to copywriting. We're going to be talking about 6 fundamental questions that your sales letter should answer here really quick. First of all, you need to know who your prospective customers are. If you do not know who your customers are, every detail, as much detail as you possibly can about them, you are not going to be able to write good copy that is going to convert, because you're not going to know what to write to them. You're not going to know what to expect from them. You're not going to know what their problems are. So before writing your sales letter, you must target your customer group. You should know whom you want to sell your product or service to, just like we were talking about in that example here a little earlier. We were targeting probably women that just need to lose a few pounds to get back to the shape that they were the year before, to get back into that swimsuit and to really start looking good. You need to target exactly who you're going after. Research. I'm going to say that word again. Research. You should know the following about your audience. You need to know their wants. You need to know their needs. You need to know the desires they have. You may even want to know occupations that they have. You might want to know their ages and even the language that you speak. If you cannot speak the language of your target audience, they're not going to see it as something being relevant, and they're not going to see you as somebody that's really probably an expert in their field, because they're going to look at it as they don't even know who I am, just by the language that you're using. Let's say you were selling golf clubs, designed to play golf, of course, but you wouldn't market it to men in general. There's a lot of men that I know, including myself, that I do not feel the urge to go out and chase a little white ball around after I just hit it. I went out and I like to hit them, but I don't like to go out and chase them around and walk around that golf. I would take that golf thing and turn it into a cow pasture and put some cows or horses or something out there and give it a different purpose. You taper it down to people that actually play the game of golf, and you have to be very specific. Now, a lot of times we look at certain occupations of people that maybe they're corporate or somebody that do more golf outings. So maybe you want to, target corporate, people, because, they're going out on these golf outings and stuff, taking their clients and stuff out. So, be very specific in who you're targeting and do the research that it's going to take to know who your prospective customers are, because if you don't, you're going to fail at writing sales copy. And one of the things I want to talk to that I should mention about that, if that's not you, you're not willing to do the research, then I'm going to tell you you need to outsource your sales copy or your copywriting to somebody that is willing to go out and figure out who your target audience is. You just tell them what your product is, what you're after, and let them go do the research. But if you're going to do it yourself, you have got to make sure you know who your target audience is. So how is your product or service differentiated? You've got to know this. If you do not, you're not going to be able to put it into your copy, and you're not going to be able to convince people that they need to have your product over the top of everybody else that's out there as far as competition. So what makes your product different from your competition? You're going to have to know your product. Have you done a comparative study? So when you're doing your research, you need to do a comparative study on the competition to find out how their products compare to yours. That's the only way you're going to know whether or not your product is different and what makes it different from your competition. Once you know this, you can start putting these differentiations into your sales copy, showing them, why they need you instead of taking off and going to find a competition. If there is anything unique about the product in a positive way, don't hide it. Flaunt it to the readers. A lot of people don't feel that they need to flaunt all the positive things. I'm not talking about hyping this thing all up so that it's just unbelievable. I'm talking about if you've got something that is very positive about your product or your service, don't hide it, because that is going to be one of the major selling points, is what makes you different, why they should choose you instead of somebody else right now. And if you've got something that you know is different than anybody else, make sure that you're flaunting it and you're telling everybody exactly what that is. Number 3, why should the prospect have faith in you? Why in the world should somebody buy from you if they are going through your sales copy and they do not even feel like can have any faith in you whatsoever? I'm going to tell you right now, this first sentence that I got up here is something that you need to pay attention to, because with all the hype, with all the scams, with all the fake information that's being given through advertising right now, skepticism sets in pretty fast, and it has set in very fast. I want you to even stop and think about all of your buying experiences that you've had and how many of them you feel have been something that was maybe misleading, or you did not have a good experience from it. What does that start putting in your mind when you show up to the next sales copy that is presented to you? Right away, you're looking for anything in there that is going to cause you to say, I have no faith in this person, and for you to leave. Your mind is going to start setting up a defense the moment you get there. And if you're going to write effective copy, you're going to have to overcome the mindset that is going on right now with a lot of the market. And you need to stop and think about what your mindset is right now about the market and what you see when you go to sales page or your buying experiences. What is it going to take to overcome you and overcome your mindset to make you believe something different? So as you're reading somebody's sales copy, go through there, and if you find something that makes you all of a sudden feel like you can trust this person, I want you to go back and I want you to reread that and find out where in the world that happened. What it was that caused that to happen, to have that mindset switch that while you were going through that, because that is going to be something that you can use as your own. So make sure that you pay attention to the things that you're reading and be very conscious when you feel your mindset is made a switch where you all of a sudden start feeling like you can trust this person. What was it that got you to that point? Those are some things that you need to be paying attention to. You need to make your prospect consider what you're telling them is the irrefutable truth. Build your credibility by offering statistics and testimonials. Now be very careful with these, especially when you're talking about statistics and testimonials. They have got to be real. Do not falsify them. Many times you're going to see these sales pages where they got these outlandish numbers on them. Yes, that person probably made that amount of money. Was it using what they are saying they did? Maybe and maybe not. But the thing that you have to understand is that it has to be able to be a typical result if you're going to say you can do this too. If you've got people that are sending you in testimonials saying, man, I made thousands and thousands of dollars using this very course or whatever, you better be able to prove it, and you need to let people know whether or not they were typical results. I would go read the FTC guideline rules and just do a Google search for the FTC rules guidelines and read what it says about statistics and testimonials and get a good feel of what kind of testimonials you can use. A lot of people will ask us, when you're doing things like adding sales copy with private label rights thing, it's like, you didn't supply us with any testimonials. Well, one of the reasons for that being is because they have to be your real results. There's ways to go about getting those, but they have to be real results. So be very careful, but they are an excellent way to help build credibility and to build trust. So maybe you've got somebody that was very satisfied with your support. They were satisfied with the product. You know, they got good results. Maybe you're not telling the results that they got, but they're talking about your credibility and you as a person to help you build that trust with your visitor that's reading. Create confidence in the viewer's eyes as to your credentials, your background, and your heartfelt story. Your story, I'm telling you, is going to be one of those things that is going to be very important. So start crafting your story that you have. Don't be thinking that it's, well, my story is just going to sound like just everybody else's. It's not. Everybody is a unique individual. We have a unique story. Some of it may be just alike. You know, we can say that, you know, several of us were to the point where we're ready to lose everything, but we still have some uniqueness. Discover the uniqueness of who you are and put it into there. But these kind of things are going to help you build that trust and that faith in your prospective buyer at that time. So go into depth on who you are. Don't be afraid to go and reveal who the real you is. Be sincere in your message, and you know that's something that is going to be felt. If you are really trying your best to be sincere, it's going to come out through your sales copy. And be professional. You know, a lot of people will just go about things trying to write their sales copy and stuff, and it doesn't come across as being professional. And one of the things you also can go talk about here that's going to help build faith in is to have your sales page where it's formatted in a professional format. You know, you've seen several sales copies out there where you look at them. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well, but where they just were a mess. You know, where it didn't come right away. You go, that's, you know, somebody that's a beginner, not very professional. It doesn't really give you a lot of trust and confidence in that person. Trust is one of the main ingredients in building a relationship with your potential customers. When people build trust in you and your products, services, they will buy. And ways to achieve this trust are to personalize. Your audience wants to read what speaks to them directly because it's the kind of writing they can relate to. And when you've done the research and know who that person is, it's going to feel just like you're talking to them. Ensure your sales copy is personalized so that readers will feel that it's written for their interest and needs specifically in mind, not just a bunch of people that might be like them in general, but you need to make sure that they're feeling like it's written specifically for them. And a lot of times you can read sales copy out there where you go, wow, how did they know? How did they figure out who I am? And when you're doing that, when that's happening, you know, that person isn't writing specifically for you. I mean, they are in a way because they probably did the research and figured out who you are, you know, because you're part of their target audience, but they don't know who you are except for the research they've done. They don't know your name, you know, they're not going to call you by name usually, but it feels exactly like they just got to know who you were and then sat down and wrote sales copy for you. Empathize with them. Your reader wants to feel that you understand their needs and wants. Your reader needs to feel that this person, which is you, understands what I want and understands the problems I am facing. I don't know how many times I've received emails that says, I don't know how you did it, but you completely understand. I just feel that you understand everything that I'm going through. You understand the problems that I am facing, and I know that, you know, by this that you've got the solution that I need, and I just want to thank you for that. And that's what you need to convey in your sales message, is that they feel that you understand them and you understand the problems that they're facing. So make sure that you're empathizing with the reader. Number 3, persuade. Persuasion copywriting focuses on benefits and not features. It sells on emotion and reinforces the decision to buy with logic. It paints a compelling picture and an irresistible offer. It's going to show that person in their mind what it is going to feel like, you know, by choosing this, and when they receive the benefits from this package. That picture is just going to begin to, you know, manifest in their mind, and it's going to create an irresistible offer. You know, a lot of people are, you know, what creates an irresistible offer? Well, a lot of times you can do that through the product, through your copy, but also if you're going to do this through your copy, make sure that that product actually is irresistible once they get it, that everything is actually there. The combination of these elements persuades your reader to act and to act now. This is persuasive writing at its very best. Prove your trustworthiness and believability. This goes right along with what we were talking about a few minutes ago, but include testimonials of satisfied customers, use full names and locations where possible, so that, because a lot of times I've had people actually take those names and get a hold of those people to actually contact them and basically verify that yes, indeed, they were getting results. Give that person that opportunity. They might not ever do anything like that, but if they feel that they have that opportunity to do that, that gives them an ease in their mind where they can go, well, I could just call that person up if I really wanted to, or get to, I got a name, email, I can get a hold of that person, go to their website, contact them to find out if this testimonial is really true. Inject facts and research findings to support your claims. Include a picture of yourself or pictures of satisfied customers. This is going to relate to people. That always include a picture on your sales page. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Cite any awards or third-party reviews that the product or service has received. One of the things a lot of people will do is if they've had a #1 product on ClickBank, they will take that and they'll put it on their sales copy and say, this product was a #1 seller, on ClickBank, which tells that person, it basically tells the person that's reading that, a lot of other people are grabbing this as well. So, it must be good. It kind of gives that social proof a feel. What are all the benefits your product or service offers to the customer? List all the visible and not so visible benefits that make your product irresistible to not accept. And you need to focus on the benefits. If you don't know the benefits of your product, you're not going to be able to convey them to the reader. Make sure that you go through the product, you figure out what your benefits are. If you can't do it, have somebody go through your product for you and have them tell you what they feel the benefits of that product are. Have them use your product and say, okay, what did you benefit when you use my product? And then start writing them down. A lot of people will tell me, I just can't figure out what the benefits are. I know what it's supposed to do, but I'm not sure what the benefits are. If you don't know the benefits, you're not going to be able to convey them to anybody else, and you're not going to be able to paint that picture in their mind of what you need to get doing for them. Headline should be focused on the main benefit of the product. And when you start going with that headline, you need to know the main benefit of the product. If it's getting your sales copy to convert better, if that's the main benefit of them going through the course, then you need to convey that in the headline. You need to convey that in your blog titles, in your emails, and your subject lines and things are focusing on the main benefits. Focus on hot buttons over hype. A lot of people will focus on hype, and yes, hype does sell. You've got to have some hype in there, and don't be afraid to use hype, but do not go overboard on this. A lot of people go way overboard, and it just becomes so unrealistic to even think that it would even be possible anymore. You need to focus on hot buttons. This is where research really pays off. In order to push hot buttons, you need to first know what they are. You need to know what drives your customer. What kind of things are they going through, and what kind of things really motivates them and drive, because these are the things you're going to need to focus on, and they're going to be the things that you're going to choose the wording with when you're writing your sales copy. It needs to paint an image. Again, you see this, some of these things we're going over and over again. It's very important that you add this into your sales copy, is that when they're going through it, you have got to paint an image, and that's what your benefits are going to help do. What might your prospects' objections be? This is something that's really important, because as somebody's reading your sales copy and thinking about the product, they're maybe considering buying, but there's going to be objections that that come up in their mind. They're going to be things like, I wonder if this is newbie friendly, or different things. It's like, I wonder if this is going to have a lot of technical aspects to this. Do I need a website? Do I need this? They're going to have objections that they're going to be going over in their mind, and you need to know what those objections are, so basically you can outline them and answer them in your sales copy. So basically you're showing them, it's like, you probably are thinking this. Well, let me clear this up for you. Basically, what you need to do to overcome objections is walk a mile in the shoe of your prospective buyers. This way you will know what reservations or objections he or she may have. I did this recently, and one of the reasons I did this was because I was getting some complaints on a particular person's product that I was selling. They were saying, the product's always good, but there's some things about it that, about the coaching and things that are going on that really are not that great. Well, and so the next time that I promoted for that person, they were like, well, what about this? And I really didn't know the answer to that question. So what I did is I decided I was going to go through the program with these students. So I basically bought the program just like they would. I showed up to the webinars and started going through the training to find out exactly what they were going to be going through. And I found out that exactly what their objections were true to be. And, so I was able to, make a decision. If you walk a mile in your prospective buyers, you're going to be able to answer the objections. If you know exactly what they're going to get and what they should expect, you're going to be able to convey that in your sales copy. You're going to be able to answer the questions that they have that might prevent them from buying. They're going to have some reservations. You've got to know what they are and overcome them. Knowing your market and researching the objections. One of the things you can do is, if you go into some of the forums that are in your niche, you'll see a lot of people that are asking questions about different products. They're asking questions, and a lot of these questions are going to be objections that they're trying to get answers for before they're going to buy. That helps you to understand what your target marketing is thinking, what they're going through, what kind of doubts they might have, and what kind of things that you need to overcome when they're going through your own products and sales copy. Once you know the objectives, start answering common questions that they might have in their minds and address them. Don't just leave them open. Don't just let them continue on, because if they still have that objection at the end, they're probably not going to trust enough to buy. Think of questions you might ask before purchasing. So if you've purchased related products, that something like you are trying to sell at this time, think of questions that you might have. Think of questions that you had when you were new, when you were just starting out buying products and stuff. Those are the kind of questions that your target market is probably asking themselves, and you need to know what they are. Pointing out negatives in products and turn them into positives. So maybe a negative that you might see, or your target audience would see, is that, wow, this course is going to be very technical, and I'm not a technical person. So you can point that out to them. Say, you know what, you're probably thinking that there's going to be a lot of technical things that you're going to need to know, and that is true. But let me tell you right now that I have that taken care of. I have supplied this amazing course as a bonus or whatever that is going to help you overcome the technical, or I'm going to show you some great places that you can outsource this to very, very cheaply, that you can be to make sure that you can get this done. So basically, you're helping them overcome that fear that they're not going to be able to do what you're asking them to do. Objection example is your product really for beginners? And because that's a big one. A lot of people go, is this for somebody new, or is this going to be somebody that's more advanced? And those are kind of questions that are going through their mind. Make sure that you address them. Say, come right on and say, a lot of people, and probably yourself, is wondering if this is new. If you're a beginner, I just want to tell you right now that I have done my very best to develop this product to be able for anybody to use, including the beginner, and then lay it out on the line of why it's going to be easy for beginners. Why should your prospect act now? This is something that's really important. If you're going to ask them to take action, you want them to do it now, not come back, because chances are they're not coming back. The end question you must reply for your prospect is why they need to act right now without any hesitation. Urgency or motive for desired action must be authentic. Example, give them a special price if they act within the next few days. So basically, if they get that product in the next few days, or right now, they're going to be able to get it at a discount. Tell them that quantities are restricted, and once the stock is exhausted, they won't be sold at the same price. Now, if you're going to tell them the price is going up in the next few days. Maybe you give them a 24 hours to act. If they come back to that, they decide to test it. If they come back to that 24 hours later, that price needs to be raised. This is a huge thing, and when people start believing what you're saying, they're going to start taking action. It's like one-time offers. When you can go back to a one-time offer anytime that you want, it's no longer a one-time offer, and people don't believe it the next time you tell them that they're not going to be able to come back. Tell them quantities are restricted. If they're restricted to so many sales, make sure that when you get to that number of sales, you shut it down, because the next time they're going to understand, and he said this was going to be limited. I come back and it was gone. I better get it now. Or if it's going to be raised at the price after a certain amount, once you hit that certain amount, raise the price. Make sure that your created urgency is credible. There's nothing worse than creating urgency that people find out that it's really not all that credible, like we were just talking about. Make sure that you follow through and that they learn to trust exactly what you're saying. All right, we're going to talk about some sales page tips and increase your conversions with a good-looking, clean, and consistent format. That is very important. You need to be professional looking when you have your sales page. I just recently seen a sales page that somebody wanted me to look at. It went from one side of the screen to the other, and it was just a mess. And that is, in my mind right away, I knew that person was new, and I knew that they were never going to make a sale when somebody showed up to that sales page. Always use a reader-friendly font. A lot of people try to use creative fonts and stuff, and that's just not something you're going to want to do. There's fonts that work. Stick to them. Don't try to be fancy. Your job is to get it to convert. For your visitor to want to read your sales page or your sales letter, you not only need to have a good headline and a high quality content, but the content must be presented in a way that is easy to read. Use easy to read fonts that are font size of 12 to 14. A lot of times you get, what size should the font be? Your normal font should be 12 to 14. If you got a younger crowd, 12 font size will work, and maybe even a 10, but you better know that it's a younger crowd. An older crowd is going to require a 14 font size to help them with readability. If they can't read it, they're not sticking around. And that's where it comes from, researching and knowing who your audience is. We're going to quickly go over some types of fonts that you can test out, and just so you know what they are. There's serif, and serif fonts have small lines at the end on some characters such as Times New Roman and Georgian. As you can see, they're going to have little lines at the on each one of the things. That is serif and serif fonts. You're going to have sans serif. Sans means without. These fonts do not have the lines at the end of the characters, such as Arial and Verdina. As you can see, the lines are missing. They're a little bit cleaner maybe looking. Monospace. All monospace characters have the same width, such as Courier, New, and Lucida Console. Those guys, they're all going to have the space is going to be the same width in the characters. Good fonts for sales page body text are Arial, Verdina, Tahoma, and Time New Roman. One of the things that you need to be careful of, I've seen a sales page that was all in an impact font, and it was very hard to read. And impact is one of those things that basically makes people feel like you're shouting at them. It's like using all capital letters. Now your headline is something where you could use an impact font. It grabs attention. It basically demands attention. But when you go through a whole sales page of impact font, it's not going to be an easy read. Some of the good ones are Arial, Verdina, Tahoma, and Times New Roman. Sans serif fonts such as Arial denote a sense of safety and anonymity. Arial is one of the most used fonts on the planet. It's probably one of them that you're going to see the most used on sales pages a lot of times. It's just one of the standard ones that you're going to see. Handwritten fonts come across as having a friendly, personal tone. Use these fonts for your signature fonts. A lot of people, you don't have to use your exact signature. There's different signature fonts that you can play around with, see if there's anything close or one that you want to use. But they basically give a friendly, personal tone, but you're not going to want to have your whole sales copy like that because it becomes hard to read. Serif fonts or Times New Roman. These fonts are noticed as being elegant, prestigious, and traditional fonts as well. Carrier font is seen as very open and honest. Impact font is seen as loud and kind of abrupt, like we were just talking about. Attention grabbing, also seen as a font that makes a statement. And like I said before, it's used for headlines in many cases. It's a good one. Do not use bold impact, unless absolutely necessary, unless you're really out to make an impact on somebody. That's what that stands for, is impact, and it does make a big statement. Sans serif fonts seem to be the most easiest fonts to read on the computer screen. Verdina is one that I really like to use. That's a font that was actually invented as a font specifically for computers. Verdina is probably one of them that I like to use the most. I like Tahoma as well, or Arial, probably one of those three. Sometimes Times New Roman, but usually Arial, Tahoma, and Verdina are the three that I use the most. And I use Impact a lot of times for my headlines. Font choices and many times as important as the words you write. When choosing a font, remember that what really matters is conversion, not what you think is the prettiest or the coolest looking font that's out there. Just because you think it looks cool does not mean it's going to help your sales page convert. So be very, very careful with that. All right, tip 2, highlight hot buttons. Another tip is to highlight or otherwise decorate words and phrases that you want your readers to sit up and take notice of as they read your words on your sales page. And here's kind of what I'm talking about. I just kind of wrote a quick paragraph and showed you some of the things that you can do with maybe like the hot button words that you want to really stand out. They should stand out. We call this decorating. Grab the prospect's attention by using font characters such as a bold. So maybe you want to bold it to make it stand out. Italicize it. Be careful with it. It's a little hard to read if you use much of it. You might want to underline it. Maybe use a different color. And I don't like to use a whole lot of different colors unless I'm talking about the pricing or something like that. Otherwise, or maybe the subheadlines. In the headlines, I'll use in different colors, but the rest of it's going to be pretty much in the same colors. Different size, maybe just make it the next size font, or highlighted. You can do these different things to kind of make your hot button words stand out a little bit. A lot of what I like to do is bold and underline it. It's just to get it. What this helps is it helps your reader to pick out these hot button words that you want them to find, and it also helps their eye to kind of start moving down the page to see what because they'll catch their attention and help them keep moving. Don't go overboard. You're not going to want to have a paragraph that you've got like 3/4 of the words underlined and bolded and highlighted and everything else. That's just, after a while they figure out what you're trying to do, and so be careful with it. Don't go overboard. Some of the hot button words that you can, that you might want to be highlighting are things like absolutely, comfortable, critical, instantly, mind-blowing, money, unconditional, like, talking about unconditional guarantees, unlimited, step by step, special, quickly, need, free. If you use the word free, I'm just telling you right now, take that word, all capital letters, make that word stand out. People like to see that word. A lot of people, talk about, you need to keep it out of there. And I don't even take my emails and sit there and put little commas or something in between the R and the E to make it so that that's not noticed as the word free. I just put it out there and never have any problems with it. It's getting as far as being spam or anything like that. But these are kind of words, some of the words, and the list can go on and on and on. You can do a search for words that are hot buttons. There's other products out there that will also give you lots of hot button words that you can use. Make your headline pop and grab the reader's attention. Your headline is the first and perhaps only impression you make on a prospective reader. Without a headline or post title that turns a browser into a reader, the rest of your words may as well not even exist, because if you don't get them here, there's no sense in writing the rest of it. And a lot of the times, if you grab them here, they're going to find the call to action, and they're going to go maybe look for the PSs and find, to find out what else they need, because a lot of people are not going to sit there and read your sales pages. They're going to, if it grabs their attention right now and gives them the benefit, and that's why it's, important to use those benefits there, tells them that it's something that they need, that it's something that that it's relevant to them, they're going to just start moving down and looking for the price and the call to action. A great headline can also communicate a full message to its intended audience, and it absolutely must lure the reader into your body text. Otherwise, they're not going to go no farther. But a lot of times it can communicate your full message, like I was just talking about, and get them just ready to take action from your very headline. At its essence, a compelling headline must promise some kind of benefit or reward for the reader in trade for the valuable time it takes to read more. A lot of the times you have long sales copy that is out there, and don't be afraid to have long sales copy. You need to put in as much as you have to get the message and to get every element of that sales page included. If you miss any elements, you're going to be missing out. A lot of people go, I don't like to read that long sales copy. It's there for a reason. And if you've got the mindset, I don't like to use long sales copy, you're going to have a hard time getting everything in there that you need to get there. It's something that just needs to be done. It converts better over the short copy almost every single time. I mean, if they're in that much of a hurry, you're going to get them in the headline, and they're going to go look for the action to take at that point. A bad headline, let's say you were sending a email out or whatever, and you're trying to have this software that you're selling to basically send out large files, whatever. A bad headline would be like, send large files to your friends. People see large files coming across as something that's maybe be infected or something they don't really trust. That headline right there really conveys no trust or really much benefit or anything. Really, it doesn't really tell anything about what's going on. You might take the same headline and create the easiest, most trusted way to send super large files. Now it's not just files, it's super large files. It's not just a way, it's the easiest and most trusted way. So it starts conveying a little bit of trust. It talks a little bit about the benefits of that and just that little bitty subject line right there. Create reader-friendly paragraphs. Restrict the length of all your paragraphs to between 4 to 6 lines. And that's just something as a standard is set. If it's at more than 6 lines, try not to go too much over. But if you're, 9 or 10 once in a while, it's not going to be no biggie. But your sales letter should have an inviting, reader-friendly look to it. Your prospect will definitely not be too happy to see 9, 11 reader-unfriendly sentence paragraphs in a row that are just, all run together. And I'm going to show you an example of this in a few minutes. Vary the length of your paragraph so that it does not become too mundane. Now here's one that's written where you go through, you notice all the paragraphs are, pretty much in between 2 to 6, lines there. You've got white space in between each one of them to kind of break it up to give it a pleasing effect. Now I want you to take a look at this next one here. If you were to come across this sales page, and I've seen this stuff, I created this one just as an example, but I've seen this kind of stuff where everything was just run in together, and you start reading through this, pretty soon you'll lose your spot and you can't find it. If you're down here reading, the problem is when you lack and you lose your spot, where are you going back? Probably right back to where you started because you're going to have a hard time looking for it. It's not reader friendly, and that's going to drive people crazy, and they're going to end up leaving. Put plenty of white space, keep your paragraphs, try to keep them 4 to 6 lines, and you'll do very well with that. Use subheadlines, bullet numbers, and other devices to attract attention and promote continued reading. Centered and bolded subheads and other eye-attracting devices can enhance readership. It keeps the eye moving down the page. Subhead, bulleted lists, and bolding and other devices will give your letter added appeal and augment response. Always take care to use these devices carefully. Overuse of them can counteract their overall efficiency, and that goes with a lot of the elements of your sales page. Like bolding things and underlining things. If you overuse things, it can kind of counteract what you're trying to actually do. Here's kind of an example of this where we've got our subheadlines, we've got our bullet points. People look for bullet points. They know they're usually going to be something that's important that you want them to understand. Look for, making your subheadlines go through. You're making them a different color here. You're setting them apart. Now, I want you to understand there's a couple mistakes on this one that I want to point out that goes with the formatting that will make it look just a little bit unprofessional, and it'll drive people crazy, and you'll hear about it. If you notice the two different color blues, we got a blue up here, and down in the next sub headline, it's a brighter blue. This is a little darker. Right away, somebody's going to catch that and they go, oh, that's unprofessional. How can I trust this person? Just little things like that are going to, if you really identify these things and take good care, that's going to start setting you apart from, a lot of other sales copy. Up here, we've got a sub headline. Check out below everything that is about to come your way. And the bullet points really have nothing to do with about what's coming their way. That they had the wrong sub headline for what they were talking about. Make sure that, it's going to be talking about what's coming up in this next paragraph, because that way they kind of get the gist of what they're about to read. They might, for the scanners that are just kind of scanning through things. A sales letter to be effective should create hope. People today are always hard pressed for time, thus they are all the time looking for products or service that will make their life convenient and comfortable. And there has never been a time more than this. People, I'm just telling you, are just plain lazy. They want their life to be convenient and comfortable. They do not want any kind of hardship whatsoever from what you're trying to tell them they're going to have to do. So keep inspiring hope to them throughout your sales copy. Create a sense of urgency. To stimulate people to take action, you need to add incentives to the offer. You can create a sense of scarcity by informing your reader that either the stock is in limited supply or that your existing offer is valid for only a limited time period. Make sure that there's some kind of urgency there in your sales letter, and also make sure, as we talked about earlier, that if you create that urgency, if there's a limited, that you follow through with that. Be the authority. They need to see you as the authority as they're reading through that. If they do not see that, they're not going to build that trust. If you manage to do so, no matter what you're selling, they're going to be much more likely to buy what you have to sell. Map out your sales letter in such a method as to set up the belief that you are only trying to help people and that you do not really benefit from the sale. Everybody knows if you make a sale, you're going to benefit from that sale. They know that's what you're trying to do, but you need to write it in a way that comes across as, I'm not here just to make a sale. I'm really trying to help you. And if you're offering that kind of help, make sure that you follow through with that as well, because it'll come back to bite you if you don't. Study effective sales copy. This is probably one of the most important tips that I can give you. Spend a few hours each day by going through some of the most effective sales letters of all times. When you find a sales letter that really does something to you when you're going through it, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, take a look at it. Start looking at sales copy. Start looking at emails. It's not just things that are invading your space or your privacy or something that you really can't stand, all the long sales copy. Just get a new mindset of what you're going to do. If you want to become an effective at sales copy, you need to understand what's out there, what's working and what's not working. So just start going through things. While you're learning, take a few hours, a few minutes, whatever it takes to really study them. When you feel it, like I said earlier, if you feel something that creates an emotion inside of you, stop and figure out what it was that created that emotion. Try to learn the nuances of the sales copy that you're reading. Try to see how they use the headline, how the lead paragraph is constructed. Look at the style, the structure, so on, every little bit of it. Look at, are they using header graphics? Is there no header graphic on the majority of them? If not, if you see the majority of them not using header graphics, that sales copy is probably converting better without graphics and stuff. So maybe you want to use sales copy without graphics. Make sure that you study effective sales copy. If you see something that's just really turned you off, try to figure out what turned you off about that so that you know what not to do or what you need to do better. Proofread. It's critical that you accurately proofread your copy, and I'm probably not the person that should teach this, but it's critical that you accurately proofread, especially your sales letter, because you need to come across as professional as possible. One of the quickest ways to lose credibility in advertising is to allow grammatical or spelling errors to appear in your advertisement or marketing pieces. You cannot do what I do and just use the spell check. It does not get everything. I do that and it bites me every single time. You have got to have somebody take a look at it, have 2 or 3 people take a look at it, and go through that sales copy looking for mistakes, grammatical errors, and things that you could change to really make it even read a little bit better. Customers translate carelessness in ads into carelessness in products and service. They ask themselves, if this company doesn't care enough to produce an ad without errors, how likely are they to care about taking care of me? Professional business produce professional quality ads and ad copy, and that means their copy has been proofread again and again and is error free. Do your very best at this. Be unique. You must have a unique selling proposition. This is your differentiation strategy. It's what makes you distinguished from the rest of the crowd, from the rest of your competition. If you're going to be just like everyone else, why should anyone else buy from you? A simple way to promote uniqueness over your competition is to sell your prospect, not to buy the product or service that you are selling them. Sounds very foolish, but it is not. If you've got, make sure that you go through them. If you got something that is better than the competition, challenge them to just go out and buy their products, because you know that they're coming back to you. Tell your reader to go and buy the product service offered by your competitors, and when they're not satisfied with what they have to offer, come back and get the real deal with the product service that you have. Now, most of the time, they're not going off. They're just going to say, wow, if he's brave enough to say that and challenge me to go look for it, he evidently believes in what he has. So make sure you know your unique selling proposition, your differentiation that makes you unique, and flaunt it. Make sure that people see that. Put your copy to the test. There's only one way you can ever find out if your sales letter will be winning or not. It has to be undergo a test. Get into the hands of your target audience or prospective buyers to see if it will convert or not. Make sure that you put it out there. A lot of people, well, I think it's going to be good, but I'm not sure. Can you look at it, and then you help them out with it, but they're just scared to put it out there. You're never going to know what it's going to do if you don't put it to the test. Give your writing strength, energy, directness, and power with an active voice instead of a passive voice. Active voice is the subject of a sentence is the one performing the action. If you write in an active voice, it gives your writing strength, it gives it energy, it gives it directness and power, and it's just going to make that person feel good as they're going through there. Applying this rule, make the first word of your sentence the one that will do whatever the main action is. Unless it's a you understood. An example of a you understood would be, if you were to say, place the pan on the table, then remove the lid. In this example, it's understood that the writer means for the reader or the person following the directions to perform the action. So if I was to say, if you're reading it, it says place the pan on the table, then remove the lid. When you read that, you're feeling that, okay, they want me to place it on the table, remove the lid. They're not thinking about, it's trying to figure out who it's going to be or wonder. They feel it's you. So it's understood that that is who you're talking about. The writer means you but doesn't say it, so it's understood what the writer means without him or her having to say it. Sentences written in an active voice will keep your readers turning the pages, keep them scrolling down the page. Active voice sentences have energy and directness. Writing in active voice means constructing sentences where the subject acts or take actions. For a couple examples here, I generated 104,349 in just 30 days using the exact powerful copywriting methods you will use yourself after completion of the Homerun Copywriters course. And another example, you could say a lot of money was made in a very short amount of time by using the methods being taught in this course. The difference between them is the first one is written in an active voice and the other one is in a passive voice. The first one is you understand who it is. The reader is, or the writer of that sales copy is talking about themselves. Or I could say you will generate this amount, where you're putting that person who is going to be taking the action. You're identifying that person. In sentences using active voice, the subject I and you perform the action of the verbs generated and will use. So I'm saying I generated and you will use. You've identified the people that are important in this and the action that is going to be taken. The sentences are punchy, direct, and make it clear who's doing what. Sentences written in active voice usually feel and sound less wordy. So if you're going through your sales copy and you feel it really sounds wordy, you've probably got a lot of passiveness going on in there, and you want to start changing it over to activeness, to active writing. So if go, and once you do, you're going to want to go back and read it again to see if it, if that has a better feel to it. A passive voice is the one performing the action is not mentioned or is not the subject in your writing. This style of writing is usually used in a speech or a lecture. A lot of times when you're giving speeches or lectures, it's going to be in a passive voice. It's used when you're trying to explain something or when you want to sound like you're well informed. Sales copy is best written with an informal style. Informal style should read like a conversation and not a lecture. And that passive voice is a lot of times used for lectures, and you don't want it to come across as I'm lecturing you. Make the reader feel comfortable so they will be relaxed and enjoy your writing. The last thing you want is for them to feel as if they're in a classroom. And this goes with your emails as well. Give them a feel that they're enjoying what you're actually writing, what they're reading. Do not make the mistake of thinking that the active voice is the only way you should write your sales copy. You can go overboard, like I've said before. So don't think that that's the only way that you need to be writing. At times, it's going to be perfectly appropriate to phrase a sentence using a passive voice. For example, using the passive voice can be an excellent way to avoid assigning responsibility for a job or blame or a problem. When you're writing sales copy, you don't want to put the blame on that person that you're reading. It would be like if you were at work. A lot of times somebody might speak to you in a more passive voice or send a memo that, if there was mistakes made and that person could be identified, but maybe you don't want to come right out and embarrass that person, identify them. So you would use more of a passive where you would say something like mistakes were made instead of I made a mistake or you made a mistake, because those are going to be things that are going to turn the readers off. So using a passive voice there would be very acceptable where you're not assigning responsibility. Just have the understanding of why you're using the passive voice instead of the active voice, and be aware of the fact that you're doing it. Now let's kind of break the active and passive voice writing down in examples. An active voice writing would be like, excuse me, many copywriters are often misunderstand the active writing concept. A passive voice might be the active writing concept is often misunderstood by many. Now in the second example there, you can see that the passive voice leaves the identity of the person misunderstanding active writing out. So our mind will automatically find a suitable substitute to place in the passive writing example. So where we're saying the active writing concept is often misunderstood, our mind is going to fill in somebody that whoever you feel is misunderstanding this concept. Are they saying, they're going to say, yeah, I misunderstand this a lot, or whoever's writing it, maybe they're the one that's misunderstanding this. Well, the other one says many copywriters. We're talking about copywriters, or you could have started that with the word copywriters often misunderstand the active writer concept. Would probably be a little bit better even yet. But you're identifying who and the action, that's going to be taken by that person. Go through your sales copy carefully, working out in your mind in each sentence, is it an active or passive voice? Sentence written in a passive voice generally will contain the use of the words was and by. So if you're reading it and you see those kind of words, you can go back and look at them, and maybe you can kind of tweak them to write it in more of an active voice. Rewrite sentences identified as being written in passive voice, especially if they really don't read really good. If it was kind of a hard read, try rewriting each using the active voice structure of writing. Use the active voice style of writing can be an easy way to improve dull or lifeless sales copy for those not confident in their writing abilities. After you rewrite them, go back, reread the whole sales copy from start to finish. If it's just a certain paragraph, reread that paragraph, maybe go up a paragraph or two and read back through to see if it's a little bit easier. But once you're all done, go back and read your sales copy and make sure that it reads a little bit better. You should notice an overall tone change and feel to your new sales copy. So this could be a good way to just make some tweaks and help your conversions by just going through and maybe adding some more active voice instead of passive in there in a lot of your sales copy and stuff. That could be just enough just to really start getting some better conversions. If you find yourself having troubles with certain sentences, do a Google search for a copywriting forums. Ask for help with rewording. These guys in these forums love to help people because it makes them look really cool and good, like they're the expert out there. They like to feel like you're noticing them as the expert. So say, you're not going to want to go in there every time you turn around with 100 sentences, because after a while they're going to say, start charging you for the work. But it's like, hey guys, I'm having a little bit of a problem. I've got this sentence and I just can't write. I'm having a hard time writing this so it really reads good. Can anybody offer me a little bit of advice or help? I respect your guys's your comments here and those of you that rewrite it. I'd be very thankful. But one of the things that you want to keep in mind is also don't just go into some forum you've never been into and expect a whole lot. Make sure that it's someplace that maybe you've been active in. But if you haven't, don't be scared to go in there and just, ask for a little bit of advice. Strive for excellence. Using these tips will attract more eyes, make people read for a longer time, create more leads, and ultimately close more sales. Always remember that your letter will be contending with many other sales letters that your reader will receive every day, sent by salespeople vying for their undivided attention, just as you are. Too many people let that right there scare them away from ever doing anything. They're saying, I'm just not going to be able to compete, so I'm just not going to do it. You can compete if you step up to the plate and you strive for excellence. To cut through the clutter, your sales letter needs to be excellent, diverse, proficient, and relevant. Do your research. You may have the greatest product, but if you cannot communicate that your potential buyers and convince them to buy your product, you will not make it. So learn to articulate the benefits of your products or services. You don't have to be a spectacular writer to create a sales letter that works. All you need to do is know how to sell to people and what causes them to buy. That's something that's very important, to learn the persuasion tactics, what causes people to buy. Know these things. Know the people that you're writing for. All right, I want to thank you for watching this training. My suggestion is to find well-written sales copy and study it. Go through the sales copy and look for the elements of good written sales copy that were discussed in the training, and look to see if it's actually following the AIDA formula. Go see if you can identify the action and the interest and the desire and the attention that the AID formula is. Go through sales copy and see if you can actually find, the attention is probably going to be the headline or the subject line or the title of the post or whatever. You can pretty much guarantee that's probably where it's going to be the attention, but go through it and see if you can identify this formula in this other people's sales copy.